You doing, my friend? You hanging in there?
I am, Mike. It's always great being with you, and I just love the connection going back to the '90s at UMass for us.
Yeah, we got to stick together, right? I mean, there's so much about the Syracuse people out there. We got to get this UMass connection going, right? Come on, we got to
That's
build
it.
this up.
Well, we had the best time. I still think back to it after all these years. Just what great memories we had.
It's a lot of fun, and it's also fun to see some of our colleagues and friends and the network grow. To see what everybody's doing these days. 20 plus years is a long time.
Definitely golden years out there at UMass, and I will just tell you, whenever I see you and Rini together, like the pride for me as a friend and someone that saw you guys when you were both in college, it just makes me so happy to see that. So keep up the great
Hey,
work.
hey, thanks so much. You too. You too. I was trying to remember this. So, tell me when you first started covering the Pats. That was
Yeah.
back at your hometown newspaper, right? Was it that in Framingham? Am I right there?
Well, so you were right, and but so for us, our connection, you and me, we were at UMass in the mid '90s. When I graduated from UMass in 1997, my first job out of UMass was with Patriots Football Weekly.
That's right.
And so that was literally my first full-time job, and you will appreciate this. I'm not sure everyone else will understand, but I was literally the scout team point guard for the UMass women's basketball team, and we're going through practice at the Mullen Center one day, and I forget how it came up, but I had a call from someone that I had to go take, and it was informing me that after like 150 rejections from newspapers around the country, that they were going to have me at the Patriots as the Patriots writer at Patriots Football Weekly. So you know what? It's one thing to tell the story to people, but you would know what that means to be the
Yeah.
scout team point guard.
Yeah, yeah, and with the Pats Football Weekly, I would pick that up every week, literally, and I'd have it in my class in the back of those, 150, 200 people lecture halls, and I'd read that every week. I love that stuff.
And people have to understand, when you're in that lecture hall, this is pre-cell phone. This is
Right.
sort of just at the start of the internet era, like probably not yet there. So the printed product was still very, what we were sort of using to find out what we wanted to find out about some of our favorite teams.
Now, I know you get people asking you for advice, I'm sure, all the time, and they follow you. I get it as well. Does it pain you and give you a little, I don't know, whatever the word is, would you have to tell people that when we were in school, we didn't have the internet? I mean, what does that say? When I was like, well, we didn't have the internet then. I'm like, wait a
Uh,
minute. How
uh,
old am I?
I'll show you. Let me see. I'm going to look to oh, I have it right here. Mike, this is what I do. I say, when I started writing, this was what I started writing on. Do you remember this when we were
That's great.
at our old collegiate age? This is called the TRS 80, the Trash 80. So when you talk about no internet, like we used to hook this thing up to like a phone line, and like you'd hear a fax beep, you'd have to type some buttons and then it would come in. And so it doesn't pain me to tell people that we were the pre-internet days. I just like to see their reaction when I tell them we didn't even have spell check on that thing. You
Right.
know? Like, what, you didn't have spell check? Well, how did you know everything was spelled right? We didn't. We didn't know.
That's what the editors were actually for. They
That's
we
right.
they really needed to go through every story and make sure they had it right. Oh, that
Exactly
was the
right.
best. It was the best, man. Hey, now it's great to see what's going on now with you, and then how much you've been doing this and for how long too. Covering the Pats, and of course, if you think about the craziness, I mean, if there's ever a story for the off season, you're the one covering it with Tom Brady. Tell me first, like, because I'm just so interested with this, your relationship with him and the interactions you've had for all these years, what kind of person he is. I don't think a lot of people would know really the behind the scenes. You've kind of been there.
Well, so it's what's so interesting to me about that, Mike, is 20 years covering someone. You sort of see them come in as a rookie, and they're single, and they're trying to figure out whether they're even going to be around, beyond that season. Tom Brady was renting Ty Law's condo in this small town in Franklin, Massachusetts, as in his early years. And then by the end of his time here, he's got, a beautiful place in Brookline, sprawling, acres and green grass. And he's a dad, with 3 kids. So I think what has been interesting for me is sort of like when I started covering him, we were almost the same age. And so we almost grew up align, get married, have kids. We would often talk about our kids more than football whenever we would talk. Now, and that's not that often, Mike. It's not like we were buds or anything like that. Any reporter athlete relationship is always going to have an element of arm's length to it, because there are times when you have to be critical and there are other times when you can get a little closer, but it's not going to be like the relationship you and I had, going back to UMass. And so I would say that to me is the first thing that stands out about the connection with Tom. And the story I always like to tell was Christmas Eve, 2018. So he's now, in his 19th season with the team, and they had just beaten the Bills the day before. And my wife had to work a half day, and I had to do a quick recording for a television thing at the stadium. So I brought the kids with me because my wife was working. And we parked our minivan over on the side. And as we're walking in to the facility, this sports car with tinted windows that you could hardly hear coming because it was like purred down like the path of the parking lot, sort of pulls up next to us. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who this is. And the window rolls down, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, hey, kids, you looking forward to Christmas? And my daughter and son look over to the side and they say, is that Tom Brady? And, it was like he starts interviewing them, oh, what are you looking forward to getting for Christmas? What do you like for sports? And I like to tell the story just because it humanizes the person under the face mask, to just tell you, like, he was interested. You could tell he's a caring person, a father, a good friend, that type of stuff. And I would see little glimpses of that over time.
That's a great story. That's awesome. And from a guy who, gave his heart and soul to that team in that area for so long. I mean, I know I only put out one little post that said nothing but respect for this guy. And, I just don't understand how even people in New England or fans could turn or be upset about this and start placing blame and, oh, was it the Patriots or Belichick or whatever? It's like, I'm just like, hey man, thank you for everything. You and I were Pats fans when they stunk, when we went to old Foxborough Stadium in a field with those aluminum bleachers, and we're losing, and they were the worst team in the league. And so I don't even know how we could complain about any of it. So I don't know. I just want to hear from your perspective though, what you thought, and I read your stuff too, but is whatever you could kind of tell us about what you thought kind of, so to speak, went down where it was all like, okay, just time to move on.
Yeah. Well, the one word that stands out to me, Mike, is it's emotional, and you're saying it's hard to understand why people could be on Tom. And well, I can sort of understand it because sports is emotional. There's passion to it. And, I can certainly understand someone that feels like this wasn't the way the ending was supposed to be written. Tom Brady was supposed to be a one uniform player. Like, if you believe that, I get it. And if you believe that, you're like, well, why isn't he a one uniform player? And like anything else, Mike, there's no one answer to it. It's not because of Bill Belichick. It's not because of Tom Brady. It's not because of Robert Kraft. It's a confluence of things that went into that led to this end result. And so, for example, Tom Brady to me, was looking for a contract extension the last couple years. And if the Patriots would have given it to him, it's entirely possible he could have finished his career as a Patriot. But Bill Belichick believes in look, let's go year to year at this point, because what do I have to go on to know that any investment that I make in the future to a 43-year-old quarterback, 44-year-old quarterback, 45-year-old quarterback is going to pay off? There's no roadmap for that, Mike. No one's ever done what Tom Brady is trying to do. So if you want to look at it from Bill Belichick's side, you can say, well, if he makes that decision to give him an extension, he'd be doing it based on faith. So I could see that. Robert Kraft, he could have said, no, Tom Brady, he's staying here. I don't care, no matter what. Well, then what? Does Bill Belichick resign? You're now for the first time telling him the decision he has to make? So that's a tough position for Robert Kraft to be in. And then you're Tom Brady. There was still a spot for him here this year, Mike. I firmly believe that. So there's a part of him that if he wanted to be a one uniform guy, Like, he could have stayed with the year-to-year plan, but I respect him. He saw a team willing to make a commitment that the Patriots weren't and said, you know what, that means more to me right now. So those are some of the dynamics, as I see it, that led to this end result.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I just never thought money was like a thing for him because I mean I felt like he was a guy who took less money to want to win. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, you go off and pay your quarterback $25-30 million, whatever, don't have any offensive line, no skilled guys around him and not do anything. Tom Brady wants to win. I think we know he has plenty of money, you know what I mean, with him and his wife. But I understand what you're saying. And there's so many factors that people probably have no idea about, so it's hard to make all these assessments and judgments. But I agree with your point.
Mike, and I'm with you. Like, I actually don't think it's about money, but commitment. And it's different, right? There's two different things. Like, the commitment is to say, like, no one, like, this is what I believe he was looking for. Like, no one's ever done it before, to play to 43, 44 at a high level. Like, we believe you can do it. What can we do to support you in this pursuit?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that to me, like, it's not give me 25 million guaranteed the next 2 years, although the commitment of doing that shows that the team's on board with, we think you can, and we're going to try to support you to do it. Contrast that to the other side, which is, let's go year to year here, and let's see how it looks after this year. And you can sort of see where Tom was coming from a commitment standpoint.
Yeah. Gotcha. Totally. Now you've been around, so Jarrett Stidham more than a lot of other people do. I mean, that's the one thing I'm thinking, like, all right, what do they do now? I mean, what do you think in the draft? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have any idea whether he's going to be good or not. I mean, you've been at practices, you've been behind the scenes. I mean, what's your take on what the Patriots are kind of left with, if you will?
So, well, my first thought, Mike, is that they would have loved to have had another year to have a more definitive sort of picture as to what Jarrett Stidham is. So, I'll use the Jimmy Garoppolo example. Like, Jimmy going into his second year in 2015, my sense is the Patriots felt pretty good about him, but the idea that they could get another year from him, a second year behind the scenes, like, then they really felt good after the second year. Then they sort of knew, like, hey, when we need to call on him for the first 4 games of the 2016 season, when Tom Brady is serving this suspension, like, we think we got the guy. So I think it's 1 year early to know definitively really what they have in Jarrett Stidham, but I think some of the same early encouraging signs that they saw in Jimmy Garoppolo that they see in Jarrett Stidham. Very intelligent, very mature, didn't miss a practice his whole rookie season. And if you go back to his preseason performance as a rookie, when he won the number 2 job over Brian Hoyer, he had the best preseason of any rookie quarterback in Bill Belichick's 20 years as coach. So those are all positive things. But Mike, it's the same thing. Like, I'm going to use an analogy for you and I. Like, we can study sports broadcasting, right? But until you're calling the game courtside and, your headset goes out and you can't talk to your producer in the studio and your stat guy is giving you the wrong number and your color person is doing something that, how are you going to handle that, Mike? You don't know until you're in that position, right? And all the reps that you got coming up the ranks from UMass to all the experience that puts you in the position now to be calling these games on ESPN nationally, like, well, now you know how to do it because you've been through it before, Similar situation here.
I have been through that situation. You're absolutely right. I like to think that the new me has gotten like so much more relaxed and calm. Like, me, probably how I could be a little out of control. Like, when all that stuff's flying around you, I had that kind of one game and I just said to myself, no, I'm like, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. And I was just kind of proud of the fact that that's how you have to fight that situation. You know what I mean? You could be part of the problem or part of the solution. You know what I mean?
And think about it, Mike. I mean, how did you get to that point? Through experience, right? And through some maturity over time. It's the same thing with me. I mean, I was back in high school, I remember being a hothead, and like at some point I just mellowed out and realized, like, this isn't productive, practice your yoga breathing, dude, and Get to a better place.
I would have never known that that's how you were. Get out of here.
Yeah,
That Mike Reiss is a high. Give me a break.
big time. Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Could talk to some of the referees in Framingham youth sports back in the 80s. He'll be like the short guy, short guy there. He's got a big mouth.
Oh man. Hey, final thing. I just want to get a quick take on, like, from now until the start of the season. And I know everybody's out there with the reports and this and that. It's even hard to get a gauge and talk about these things until we even know, hey, when does practice start? Are we on time? What's the draft look like? What are we going to do? I mean, what's your feeling on all those things? I mean, it's hard to know, right?
Really hard to know. And really probably one of the biggest things in covering Bill Belichick over the last 20 years that I've learned is the value of the day-to-day approach. And while you need to prepare for the big picture and, knowing what's coming ahead, really all you can do is go day-to-day, Mike. I mean, this thing could go in any different direction from we don't even have a season to we have an abbreviated season to we have a full season. Maybe there are fans in the stands. Maybe there aren't fans in the stands. I mean, who knows right now, right? And so I think all you can do is take the day you're in and say, look, this is the dynamics and this is the parameters of what I can work in and attack it, right? And right now they know they're having a draft, 3-day draft, and you got to get the best information you can on those prospects and build that roster. I think they have 66 players on the Patriots roster right now. They're going to have 90, by the time this thing is over. So that's a lot of spots to fill. Rely on your relationships to get credible information, maybe play it a little more conservatively, right, Mike? Because you don't have the same scouting that you've had, and just try to fill this thing out the best way you can, given the limitations in place.
Understood. Well, we'll see what happens, man. I hope everything's going the best it can for you right now during all this. And, I think we just have to have a little trust and faith, and that, we're going to get through it. We all know we will. We just don't know when. That's just the hardest thing.
No doubt, Mike. I love that we're still connected after all these years. I just want everyone that's watching this to know something about you. You took it to the highest level when we were at UMass Amherst, 1990s. You took that sports radio station and you were the sports director, and man, first of all, we had the best time together. It brings back the best memories. But the way you sold the advertising, and then you got out and you went out and called games and created a network, a following that people had to tune in. I was just so proud to be associated with you doing it, and that we're still connected today and you're still doing it at this level. It just fires me up.
Oh man, thanks so much. I want everybody to know that I had a great teacher, mentor, and friend in you, because you started this, man. You were there the 2 years before I got there, and then I was a freshman and sophomore your final years, and then I took over. So it was what you and I remember Pat Sheeran as well that started it. So you guys are the best.
Check this out. Speaking of Pat, this is a picture. So me and Patrick worked together at the Patriots, and that's him behind the camera. And that's me interviewing a receiver, Brian Stabline, who was with the Patriots. That was at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. So you mentioned Pat. There he is right there. There I am. And I just keep it by my desk because I never like to forget. Yeah, what else can I pull out here?
Yeah, I was going to say, you got all these cool visuals. I got nothing. I just got this backdrop.
Yeah, I had something from UMass basketball. Let me see if I can dig it over. Hold on one second, Mike.
Yeah, take a look.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I got it. Check this out. Wait till you see this, Mike. So as you know, we had one of the best times with UMass basketball, right? John Calipari. Yeah. Look at this picture. So can you see that?
Look at that. There he is.
So doing the public address announcing with when they were number one. Can you see that? Is it good look?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I used to get so nervous before those games when we were doing the PA. Oh my goodness. But those, again, were great memories. And I'll touch base with Carmelo Travieso at times and some of the players from that era. And man, and those trips to Temple. Do you remember going to Temple?
Yeah. John Chaney and McGonigal Hall.
The best. I mean, the electricity of those games and the rivalry. I mean, we tasted what? That was 3 decades ago now. It's crazy to think about that.
Going to be 25 years,
So,
the anniversary of the Final Four. My claim to fame as a freshman, I was doing stats. I got to do stats, our hierarchy on the radio there. And I got to go in and do stats for the first time. UMass hosting George Washington, their
oh,
only loss of the season. Oh,
yes,
man, that year, the
yes,
regular season.
yes. Oh, Mike Jarvis, right? Was he the head
Yep, Mike
coach?
Jarvis. Yeah, you got it.
Unbelievable. That
We could
was
probably
great.
talk about that for hours. Awesome to catch up with you as always, buddy.
All right, Mike.
And all the best to you and your family. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.